Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. So, have you ever wondered what happens when a highly anticipated, week-long national holiday collides with an environment mathematically designed to, well, completely empty your wallet? Today, we are unpacking this truly incredible collection of self-reported data from the 2026 Golden Week Victims Association. We're looking at real, on-the-ground stories pulled straight from Japanese gambling parlors. These players spent their precious vacation time locked in an absolute battle against pachinko and pachi slot machines. Get ready because the numbers we're about to look at are literally staggering.
Now, Golden Week in Japan is usually a time for travel, heading back to your hometown, eating great food, and just taking a well-deserved break, especially for folks experiencing their first real time off from a new job. But for a certain segment of the population, it turned into this massive financial trap. Like, how exactly do you warp a relaxing holiday into a 200,000 yen nightmare? Well, it is an absolute masterclass in psychological manipulation.
All right, let's dive into Act 1, Pachinko, the endless spin. To set the scene for you on the parlor floor, players walking in for the holiday quickly figured out they were stepping into a totally brutal gunjime, or tight nail setting, and the primary culprits waiting for them make up what's basically a wall of shame. We're talking major, beloved franchises here: Kinnikuman, Tokyo Ghoul, Lycoris Recoil, and the Evangelion series. The parlors brilliantly use these super popular intellectual properties as bait. Players stubbornly chase their favorite characters, completely ignoring the terrible odds, and the result, wallets being drained at terrifying speeds.
Just look at this specific report, for example. One player poured a jaw-dropping 200,000 yen, which, let's be real, is roughly a month's rent for a lot of people, into Re02 and Yoshimune machines in just 2 days. But the absolute worst part isn't even the money. It's the psychological torture. They spent that entire amount without triggering a single Sakibare warning. They endured 2 straight days of dead silence while their money just evaporated. Talk about breaking your spirit.
And man, unfortunately, that was not an isolated incident. We saw a total loss of negative 180,000 yen for another player who stubbornly spent 3 consecutive days chasing wins on a Kinnikuman machine. But here's the ultimate twist of the knife, right? After losing over and over, this player finally took a break on the 4th day. And what happens? Somebody else sits down at their exact machine and immediately wins 50,000 yen. I mean, no way. That's the kind of bad luck that just haunts you.
The tragic comedy of all this really lies in the stark contrast. While everyone else is out experiencing a normal Golden Week, traveling, relaxing with family, this player's reality was sitting through 980 spins with 0 payouts on a machine themed after the anime 86. That's a 150,000 yen loss. One player actually noted they spent the rest of their holiday just resting at home because they literally could not afford to do anything else.
Moving right along to Act 2, Pachi Slot and the Illusion of Control.
So pachi slot introduces this really dangerous psychological element. Players genuinely believe their timing and their ability to quote-unquote read the machine gives them an edge over the house. And the machines themselves actually weaponize this belief. Take this harsh philosophical taunt. All disadvantages are due to the person's lack of ability. This is heavily associated with the Tokyo Ghoul machine, and it perfectly captures the psychology of pachi slot. When you lose, the machine is basically looking you in the eye and saying, hey, it's not the odds, you just weren't good enough. So players end up blaming themselves instead of the casino. Driven completely mad by these mechanics and that inherent psychological taunting, one player reported dropping 120,000 yen on Tokyo Ghoul in a single day. Believing it was just their own lack of ability, they immediately marched back the next day to try and win it back, and lost another 100,000 yen. That is a massive 220,000 yen hole dug purely by the desperate need to prove they could beat the machine.
Now you might be thinking, what if you actually do everything right? Well, here is the ultimate betrayal. One player beat incredible odds, pulling a 1 in 1,000 Q ticket just to get inside the parlor. They sat at a Cubinary machine and actually triggered a rainbow trophy. That mathematically confirms setting 6. They literally had the absolute best mathematical advantage the machine offered, and they still walked away 50,000 yen in the red. Even when you absolutely win the math, you can still lose the money.
Which brings us to Act 3, the final boss, Million God.
The absolute peak of Golden Week despair came from this single, notoriously brutal machine. Tracking the agonizing journey of 1 Million God player, we see this grueling descent deep into the machine's limits. They started with a small win at 200 games, then nothing but dead spins until a tiny, single payout at 1,170 games.
Pushing even further into the abyss, they hit another completely meaningless payout at 1470 games. This relentless hours-long grind resulted in a soul-crushing loss of over 120,000 yen for just this one single session.
And the pain inflicted by Million God was definitely universal. We see another staggering loss of negative 175,000 yen here. And remember our earlier chat about locking in setting 6? Well, this player also managed to confirm setting 6 on Million God. They had the best possible odds, played from opening to closing, endured this massive financial hit, and explicitly swore in their report they would never, ever touch the machine again.
But honestly, perhaps the absolute cruelest trap is the ceiling mechanic. One player was just 50 games away from guaranteed salvation at the 1,410 game mark. They were so close. But then they accidentally hit a Rep 3. That's a mathematically rare but financially totally meaningless minor win that instantly reset all 1,410 games of progress back to 0. It's an incredibly dark, almost predatory game design.
So the crucial question we have to ask is anyone actually immune to this? Well, even the host compiling these reports for the source material fell victim. They started by losing 20,000 yen on a Cafe Terrace pachinko machine. But then, they had this massive stroke of luck on a Yoshimune pachi slot, hitting heaven mode and winning 4,000 medals. They were significantly up. But through what they hilariously call the somehow effect, basically a series of really poorly planned subsequent bets over the rest of the holiday, they somehow evaporated all those winnings and ended the week 30,000 yen in the negative.
Let's unpack why this all happens in Act 4, the parlor psychology.
To truly understand how rational people, like the players we've discussed and even the hosts themselves, can lose a month's rent in just a few days, we really need to examine the profound psychological shift that happens the moment you step through those automatic sliding doors. The source material brilliantly defines this as the Pelika effect. Inside the deafening noise, the flashing lights, the intense sensory overload of the parlor, your hard-earned Japanese yen psychologically transforms. It stops feeling like the money you use to buy groceries. It becomes Pelika, abstract, fictional gaming tokens. This completely disconnects the player's brain from the reality of what they are actually spending.
And the true tragedy of the Golden Week victims? It isn't actually felt while they're sitting at the machines. It happens during the exit reality check. The crushing despair only hits when players finally surrender, step outside those sliding doors into the quiet reality of the street, and their brains suddenly convert that fictional Pelika right back into real Japanese yen. That's the horrifying realization of exactly what that 70,000 or 200,000 yen loss actually means for their real-world lives.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to close out this explainer. Every single year, thousands of people swear off these machines after a brutal holiday loss. Yet the parlors remain absolutely packed the very next weekend. So we're left wondering, is human nature simply wired this way? Will the fleeting, electrifying hope of hitting that jackpot always compel us to ignore the overwhelming mathematical odds stacked against us? It's a super fascinating, if kind of tragic, look at human psychology. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this, and hey, keep questioning the odds.